Hey guys, welcome back to Dan Week. I'm going to be answering some of your questions today. You left a bunch on float plane, so let's get to it. Fishkin04 asks, how do you stay on task? For me, it's kind of difficult. I've got ADSL, ADHD, I guess, broadband, and it's difficult. It is really difficult. There's a lot of stuff in my life. I have basically blocked every single hour of the entire week to things, and there's maybe a couple hours left that I haven't found placement for. For me, I've tried notebooks, I've tried calendars and things like that, and it all just kind of doesn't work. To-do list, task things, apps, everything, it doesn't work. Google Sheets, for me, works really well. Because it's cell-based, you can kind of lay things out and reorder them really easily. The biggest thing that I found was countdown timers. There's a great program that you can get on Windows called Time Left. It's kind of free, and you can have one countdown timer, and you can set up a bunch of automations and stuff like that. For me, ADHD, one of the big things is time blindness, or at least an malformed perception of time. And so there's a lot of mental bandwidth of like, when do I leave? When do I have to do this thing? How long do I have? And so say I'm taking my lunch break at noon. When I look at my clock there, I can see exactly that I have 24 minutes left, or like 2 hours and 40 minutes and 30 seconds, which allows me to go, okay, now I don't have to think or conceptualize how much time is required to do a task. And I can go, okay, well, this is probably going to take an hour and 15 minutes. So yes, I can dive right into that. Everything is kind of planned, and it removes a lot of mental bandwidth of time management and knowing how long I have to do something. If I have to go to bed at 10 p.m., I know that I can play video games for 2 hours and then ignore the timer and go to bed at 2 a.m. anyway. Mirrorwin asks, why did you want to work at LMG? So I had been in the music industry for about 7 years, I think, before that point. And the ceiling is like pretty small. If you can think about the pool of people who are professional engineers, it's pretty small. And it's also pretty incestuous. I think there's maybe like 3 or 4 studios here in Vancouver. And generally you have a senior engineer and a junior engineer. So I was acting as a junior engineer. And so what? That's like one of 8 people. I'm not going to be going to move to work for a big studio. The guy I trained under had been working as an engineer for longer than I'd been alive. And then, okay, well, you think about the big concerts, like, okay, who's Beyonce's engineer at a concert? That's going to be like one person. Where do you go in that kind of space? I mean, I was lucky enough to get into a studio at all. You see all these people coming out of recording college and stuff like that, and they're, okay, well, I want a job now. And, how are you going to get a job? I actually started there as a camera operator and eventually moved up into engineering and things like that because I had been doing it forever. I'm mostly self-taught, and I'm still bad. And I wish I was better. And it's just practice all the time. And I don't know how to get to that next level. It's very difficult. It's kind of like a black art almost. Very, very strange. We did a lot of live concerts too. So live sound mixing. And that whole kind of thing turned into a full production house. So that's kind of, I grew from just a camera op to the technical director of like the whole studio. We did concerts every weekend because our main booth was set up for live orchestra. So the main recording room could seat about 100-person orchestra. In 2019, pre-pandemic, I did 192 concerts, which was a lot. And then I also moved into developing our own online streaming platform. I used a system called Mux, which is on the back of AWS, and then we have player integration and VODs and live streams and all that sort of stuff, and then a team of editors, including myself, who would edit the footage and kind of get it going during the week, and studio maintenance and everything. It was a tiny team, basically just the 2 of us, and we had the head engineer and then myself, who did everything else. If there was a fire, then I had to put it out. And there was always like 15, 20 fires at the same time. I needed to get out of that environment. That's one of the reasons why I started working at LMG. And it's really nice here because if I die in a car accident, the business doesn't fail. Like someone can do the job, and that is kind of nice. I can take vacations and I can take weekends off, and I still do WAN shows, so my Fridays are still destroyed. But now I get Saturdays back, and having a social life is sort of possible.
I'm gonna knock on wood for you dying. Don't die. Don't die.
I'm going to knock on wood for you dying. No. Sammy gets me. I love you, man. Shrishakt asks, what are your interactions like with Linus and Luke outside of the WAN show? I would say it's pretty similar, to be perfectly honest. Obviously, there's a little bit of heightened antagonism, I think, on the WAN show set. But I mean, Linus takes that elsewhere outside of the WAN as well. It's maybe a little bit more friendly and jovial than the WAN show set. It's kind of heightened a bit to boost the entertainment thing. Like, I would never really jump in with quips or digs kind of outside of the WAN show. Wouldn't necessarily be appropriate for kind of like a business working relationship, but sort of, water cooler. He makes fun of my car, that sort of thing. Luke is less like that, but of course on the WAN show we don't have as much antagonism. Kind of fun place to dig at him, and he can dig back, and it's good. It's like cathartic in a way, but it's very similar, very, very similar. Curse Rotted Great Wood asks, what kind of questions are you allowed to answer on the WAN show, and are there any guidelines and stuff like that? WAN show questions are a bit difficult. There's not really been any training on it. You kind of build up an intuition after doing it for a long while. That's one of the reasons why we initially wanted just a single host, or at least Linus did. Originally, the plan was to have 4 or 5 rotating hosts so that we would only lose like one Friday each. Having repeat questions every single week is very irritating and kind of boring. And because we got, 200-300 merch messages every single week, being able to know what those 300 messages were for the last few weeks is really useful to be able to keep the show interesting. I'm always looking for something that can spark a discussion. So that intuition isn't perfect. Sometimes I think questions that would be really interesting are actually really boring, or Linus won't engage with, or Luke won't engage with. It's just kind of like, yep, okay, next question. And other stuff that I think is a little bit innocuous and that I would expect a yes from actually starts 40 minutes of tangents and things like that. Some of the stuff that I would kind of archive and not really push through are maybe anything with a link, anything that seems overly antagonistic. Obviously, I answered a question about wages ages ago that I thought was pretty innocuous, and that caused an entire spark of controversy as well. So generally anything business related, anything that would be me speaking for another person. So if somebody asks, like, what does Sammy think about this? I would probably respond to that and say, like, I don't know, ask him. And then next question, right, just kind of like throw it away, dumb answer kind of thing. I think the intuition now is basically don't say anything. And that's really sad. And it makes me sad because I'd like to have a more engaging discussion and like respond with heartfelt things or give information about the business. But everybody seems to misconstrue that. And it makes it disappointing to be able to engage with things.
How do you think Chewy did when he was doing the merch messages for the charity stream?
I think he was pretty good. I'm trying to train him as a replacement for the WAN show. Right now, there's no replacement, so I can never take a Friday off. That's dangerous because, again, bus factor of 1. If I get hit by a bus on the way to work, right, then there's no...
Knock on wood.
Yeah. Thanks, Sammy. Yeah, wishing for death.
No, it's the opposite.
He's so mean. Right, and I think he did okay. There wasn't too many merch messages during a day stream. There's maybe 20 to 30, maybe 50, something like that. And Chewy would be perfect because he's already the community manager and already knows how to not start controversy. So he can pretty much say whatever he wants. And we worked together a few times on dealing with the fallout from shit I've said. Fancy Pingo asks, what's the most frustrating thing about running the WAN show? Right now it's been the computer. There's been decades of bugs with that computer. A couple streams ago, it just hard freezes right before the show, right? I can't do anything. It takes the stream down. I can't trust my equipment, and it makes WAN show extremely stressful the whole time, every single time. Fridays are not a good day for me. It's awful. Every stream is like, the computer failed again, and I built another one, and that failed in the same way. We put a 13900K on a test bench, and I ran some Cinebench and benchmarks and things like that. It was failing after 15 seconds, after 1 second. So I gave that to labs because it didn't make any sense why this was happening. And then we built another system on AMD, and I was running Cinebench, Furmark, MSI Buster, Prime 95, 8 Chrome tabs full of 8K video and live streaming simultaneously. Oh, and playing back audio in Reaper. And it ran for 2 hours straight, just humming along. And I was also doing some Photoshop work too. So the computer was 100% everything, 95C perfectly, 2 hours. So that's been in service now, and it hasn't failed yet. The stream card exploded on the last stream we did this Wednesday, or last Wednesday, I think it was. Right before the stream, the whole computer exploded. So I put the WAN computer in there, and then now we're building an identical system out of AMD, which is going to be like our streaming card and probably combined with an away kit, because we need to figure out how that works a little bit better. It needs to be easier.